Hey guys, it's just on the case. I know I'm always on the case. I hope everybody is doing well. So, I know I've been gone for quite some time. But today we're going to talk about someone special. We're going to talk about Meika Jordan. Let's start like this. Mika was a 6-year-old child. Let's just throw that out there. Let's just go ahead and get that out the way. Mika was in a split family. Like, you know how most of us, we have a mother and father over here, and then we have a mother and father over here. One out of each of those groups, one is the mother and one is possibly the father. But they both have different partners now. So that's how Mika's life was set up. Mika liked ladybugs. She liked Slurpees. She liked to sing. She liked to put on a show. And she actually did a good job, entertaining people around her. And she was so sweet and nice, and I just feel like at 6 years old, having your life taken from you, that's just entirely too young. And to have things happen the way Mika had them happen to her is just even more terrible. I mean, it's so much going on in the world. It's like, are people gonna wake up, and realize that violence is not the answer? Seek help if you have to do, drastic things. If you feel yourself thinking about something weird that you would never do, or you're feeling like you are so overwhelmed that you need to punch someone, you need to go and seek a guidance counselor, violence place for people that have anger management issues and want to punch people and feel like killing someone or hurting themselves. There are places for people like that. Because the problem that I'm having and the problem that I keep running into, people don't want to take responsibility for their freaking actions. When you kill somebody, you don't wait until you kill them. You don't wait until you put them in the hospital to realize that you made a mistake. Why would you be trying to make it look like it wasn't that bad? It's not the fact that it wasn't that bad. It's the fact that it happened. Because if we all as adults take the initiative, if we feel like we want to kill somebody or we want to harm someone or ourselves, and we go ahead and seek help, that can prevent other people from dying, especially children, for no reason. And I'm about to get into this story because this story really, really pissed me off. This little girl went from her mom and her mom's husband, which is her stepfather, to her real dad and her stepmother. So at some point, she would mostly be with her mother. And then she would have to have the time split between her mother and father. So she would be over at her father's place with his wife, and then she'd be back over here with her mother and her husband. All around while all of this is going on, and some children don't even take this well. From what I have looked up, I don't see any issues, any problems with her attitude towards the situation. She looked like a happy-go-lucky child. Like, she was happy to be here. She loved life. She sung. She liked ladybugs and stuff. And, she just enjoyed being a kid. And The problem with this story is there was a 911 call made on Mika's behalf saying that she fell down a flight of stairs. When the ambulance got there, Mika was suffering from cardiac arrest. She was not breathing. So they had to get her to the hospital. Mika died in the hospital. While in the hospital, she had bruises all over her. She had in the palm of her hand a burn, third-degree burn mark on a 6-year-old's palm of their hand. And I was trying my best not to go too fast, guys, but I heard the mother calling for help about a child being burned. The stepmother. She called and she said, hey, my daughter burned her hand on a curling iron. The lady was like, ma'am, were you letting her curl her hair? And she was like, no. She just happened to pick it up and she burned herself. And I'm trying to figure out how serious it is and what I need to do. So the lady was like, ma'am, is the burn, is it white? Is it yellow? Asking her what color was the burn. So she said the burn was white. It was a white. She said, the lady asked the stepmother, is she complaining? Is Mika complaining of pain? And the stepmother said, no, she's not complaining of pain. So I guess the stepmother felt like, oh, if she's not complaining of pain, that's fine. No, the lady was trying to tell her she should be complaining of pain because she should have feeling in her hand. What that meant was she couldn't feel her hand, and that's why it was pale. There was no blood circulation, and she probably couldn't feel that part. So why would she be crying if she can't even feel it? You know? And she was like, ma'am, I just don't think that's good. You know, you need to take her. I guess she was telling her she might need to take her to the hospital. I guess she didn't say might. She was advising her that wasn't good. So, with all this circulating around Mika, what ended up happening was she basically died in the hospital at 6 years old. But she came in with burns, all kinds of just bruises. They found lacerations in her stomach area. She had they could tell basically that stuff was torn. Things that shouldn't have been torn inside this little girl's body were torn. And these are her organs inside of her, in her stomach area. And so her head it was a blow. She had a blow to her head. So the investigators then started thinking hey, this is not an accident. It can't be an accident. All of this stuff going on with this little girl. She's got all these few bruises. She's got lacerations in her stomach. She's got torn ligaments in her stomach. She's got, looks like somebody tried to mess up her head, and they said the head was the most severe injury that Mika had. And they just could not fathom the story. They were like, there's no way that all of this stuff is going on, and this 3rd-degree burn from her falling down a flight of stairs, which we know the 3rd-degree burn was not from Mika falling down the stairs. We know that. On top of that, they're trying to figure out, what happened. And her mom, her real mom, not her stepmom, was just, I could feel her pain. Like, she was just so overwhelmed by everything. And the stepfather, the mom's husband, they were just overwhelmed. And they had a reason to be. They had a 6-year-old dead in the hospital. All these things going on with her. But they're saying she fell down a flight of stairs. They also explained that, later on, that Mika was running up and down the stairs and that was her punishment and she fell. First of all, I want to know, how do you feel like that's okay? And how now we know 6-year-olds, and the thing about them is, come on, they are still learning. They're still learning. And my problem with the whole situation is, okay, she's 6. She might trip, guys. You could have came up with it. My whole thing is, I'm trying to keep my composure about the whole situation. You guys could have came up with a better scenario of a lie. And I'm just being sarcastic because that was, like, why would you have a 6-year-old running up and down a flight of stairs saying that's her punishment, knowing that she could fall and bust her head wide open? What in that story made it okay for you to tell the cops that? Like, what made you feel like it was okay to make that up and that was going to be feasible for the cops? Like, that didn't even make sense. I would have had like red alarms going off in my head, because that right there is still not good. Like, that's bad. You're telling me you got these flight of stairs and they're long, and this little girl is running up and down the stairs, and you're standing there and you're telling her, when she'll be able to stop. And she just falls down the stairs. But you knew as a parent there was a possibility she could have failed. But that was not even the real story. The real story was the dad punched her in the stomach really hard, like she was a grown person, taking his anger and frustration out on her, pretending to the real mother that he was taking care of his daughter. While he's sitting there, and I'm not trying to be funny, guys, but he's sitting there with someone who's not even this girl's real biological parent, allowing this person to burn this little girl's hand with a lighter. She held her down and lit her hand on fire with a lighter, causing 3rd-degree burns on Mika's palm of her hand. Then they're knocking her in the head. They're beating on her. When he punched her in the stomach, he's the one who caused the lacerations, the tears, and the torn ligaments, and whatever else was going on in there with her. He caused that. Instead of saying, I'm having an issue, I need to take her to her mom's, he gonna take his anger out on his biological daughter and punch her in the stomach. Like, she did so much to deserve it. On top of that, when Mika got to the hospital, her hair was matted up. Clumps of her hair was missing. The neighbors say when they saw her outside, she looked like she wasn't being taken care of. So the mother, the real mother, had previously saw scratches on her daughter. And she was concerned, and she asked about the scratches, and they just, made a story and put it away. As a parent, you don't want to think the worst about your kids. When you send them somewhere and the person you're sending them to is obviously someone you trust, I would not even think, if I drop my child off, that he or she is going to come back with a black eye, or, end up dead. And I just have to deal with it, at the hands of the people that I trust. So they had to do a big sting, Mr. Big operation to get Mika the justice that she needed, because they didn't really have a whole lot to go on. It was more of a like he said, she said, no real physical evidence that would stand up in court and get these people. They needed to be put under the jail. Like, seriously, they need to make like a whole cave where they put people who don't know how to act, especially people who are doing who are doing things with kids. If you're abusing them, if you are neglecting them, if you're beating them, you need to be not seen. You need to even feel like that you're 6 feet under. And I'm saying that because Mika did not deserve that. And guys, I'm sorry if I curse, but when it comes to kids, it's getting ridiculous. Like, I'm tired of hearing like weird stuff that parents are doing to their kids. We already have to deal with these weird people out here, but then you got parents who don't know how to ask for help, who don't know how to drop the kid off to the other parent if they're having their issues are just far out. And it's okay to need to do that. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with dropping your kid off if you're out of your mind. So now, with the big sting, Mr. Big's big sting operation, what happened was they had to go undercover and they had to set up this person to be Mr. Big, who was more probably like an investigator or like an officer of some type that do investigations and get to the bottom of things. And these people who were supposed to be Mika's parents, not her mom now, not the mom, the real mom. I'm talking about the stepmom and the dad. They went on about their life like Mika was nothing. They didn't get upset. They didn't mourn. They started getting business opportunities. Life was looking good for them, and they went on with their lives like they didn't just murder this little girl. Like they didn't just cause her death. Like she wasn't special. Like her parents, her mom didn't care about her. Let alone the dad punching her in the stomach, but he didn't think about, I'm hurting this little girl, and not only am I hurting my own daughter, I'm going to be hurting her mom too. He didn't think about that. Whatever anger management problems he had. But somehow Mr. Big got the information out of them because Mr. Big was the person that was giving the job opportunities to get down to the bottom of what really happened to Mika. And so he was acting as like he was a crime boss. And so if it's a crime boss, what you have to do, you have to be honest. You have to tell the truth if you did a crime so that you can be looked at as a trusted individual. So they had to basically explain to Mr. Big any crime that they committed. And they had to tell the truth about what they did during the crime for Mr. Big to trust them and I guess offer them, all these different opportunities. So the dad went in, told Mr. Biggs he punched his daughter. First he said, no, I just shoved her. And, I think I shoved her kind of hard. And then he went out and he told the truth. He said, I punched her really, really hard that she fell over. I saw his face. He was like, I punched her hard. And I was like, really? Really? No tears at all. Now, even you can be a psychopath. I'm pretty sure a psychopath would have cried over their child. Like, I really did that? This man would, no. You can hear a little bit of like, I would not even say panic. I would say like stutter in his voice. But him cracking up and crying, I didn't see it. And then here comes the stupid stepmom. This is her. I would punish her. She would have to run up and down the steps. Yeah, I burned her with a lighter. I held her in between my legs and I burned her palm of her hand with a freaking lighter. And they're just sitting here and they're telling this man this stuff, not even knowing that this man is going to bring them down. And so she was saying how, she didn't have any type of vendetta against Mika because Mika wasn't her child. It wasn't about that. Well, lady, what was it about? What was it about? Because you aided a man who was a blood relative to this child into harming and aiding in the murder of this child, causing this child's murder, this child's death, this child's end. And you're going to tell me you were not jealous because it wasn't your baby. I think you were. And I think since you saw the father get upset, I think you thought it was okay for you to do that to somebody else, another woman's child. And I got a problem with that because there's nothing wrong with having a step parent. But you got to watch some people because people are just not, they're just not there. They're not right. They're not right in the head. And you don't need to have your kids around them. When my son feels like something isn't right, he will tell me, I'm not going. Mom, please don't make me go. If my son comes to me and say, Mom, I don't want to go, I'm not going to make him go. A 6-year-old is harder for them. They might forget something, they might go back, or somebody might threaten them and say, you tell your mom, I'm going to do this or you won't get this. And they might not say anything because they don't realize, because they're only 6, how critical it could be for their lives. They don't understand yet. So they felt like, I guess, telling Mr. Biggs this stuff would get them the best opportunity. And Mr. Biggs used the information. It was admissible in court. They were charged with 2nd-degree murder with 17 years. After 17 years, they were able to do, parole. They tried to overturn the conviction like some dummies. I'm sorry, but they were stupid. So, not only did you admit that you did this to a 6-year-old, you are going to have the balls to go in front of someone and tell them that you don't like your punishments. Well, what about Mika and how she's not coming back and how her punishment is, I'm stuck at 6 years old because I didn't get a chance to be an adult, to experience life because somebody decided that it was in their powers to get rid of me. But you're walking around and you're complaining about your sentencing of a murder of a 6-year-old, and you think that that's okay and that the judge should overturn your conviction to a lesser charge. You lied to authorities and told them this girl fell down the steps when you punched her in the stomach. And on top of that, you burned her with a lighter and did not call anybody to make sure it wasn't infected. It wasn't infecting her body. It wasn't harming her. So with that being said, you already knew that you weren't trying to take care of her. You didn't do anything about that. And then on top of that, you beat her in the head and you kept beating on her and you kept hitting her like she was some punching bag. I wish for every person out there that's hitting, smacking, knocking their kids in the head, I wish for every person out there that every time they do that, somebody knocks them in the head. Because things are getting ridiculous. Now, there is a such thing. Some people believe in corporal punishment. Some kids you just have to be stern with. Some parents believe taking things away will work. Some parents believe putting in time out will work. But punching someone in the stomach at 6 years old, running up and down a flight of stairs, knowing she could break her neck, and then burning her with a lighter, it calls for more than what they got. And that's what I'm going to say. So they weren't happy with the second-degree murder charges and the 17 years after 17 years of parole. Oh, no. They felt like they should get less, like Mika did something to them. Oh, that's not fair. What do you have? What do you have to justify your actions against this child? You don't have anything. She is innocent, young, small. Depends on an adult to take care of her, clothe her, and feed her, move her around. What you did was you took her life because she was innocent, she was small, and she depended on people. And there are people in the world that are just like that. They will kill a child because they know the child depends on an adult. To them, that is an advantage, and they do it because it gives some people like this feeling, I guess, that you're hopeless and that they can do these things. So, since they wanted to do that and overturn that, they ended up getting first-degree murder. There was no downgrade. There was an upgrade. Because the judge just felt like, okay, at this point, I'm looking back at this evidence and stuff, and you guys are sitting here, and it's telling me, and I believe this is how he felt, like, you're not sorry, and you're coming back in my courtroom wanting something overturned? Can you bring Mika back? Overturn that. But you can't. Who in their right mind will go in front of a judge after killing or aiding and abetting and killing a child, knowing that they had something to do with it and it's proof, already convicted, will go back in there and say, I don't agree with my charges. The best thing for you to do is go sit down. So you're a psychopath, first of all. And you're a lot of other things. To be able to do that, that means you don't care. You don't give a damn. Excuse me. But it took the highest court to overturn the second degree and switch it up to first. And I'm glad. Because Mika didn't die for anything. And if anybody out there feels like they're going to get away with knocking their kids in the head and burning them with lighters and punching people and pushing people downstairs, running up and down stairs, hey, I'm going to need you to calm down. If you can't be a parent and you can't handle raising a child, give them to someone who will enjoy them. Give them to someone who is blessed by their presence. Give them to somebody that will be overjoyed to have them. Instead of you making a decision on your own that you created life or death and you can kill someone and it's okay. It's not okay. Karma is really bad. And these two, they just did the dumbest thing you could ever do. And then they tried to cover it up with the dumbest story. Like, even if you hadn't killed her, say that they hadn't killed her. You said you made her run up and down the stairs? It's not like it was 3 stairs, guys. These are a flight of stairs. This little girl is 6 years old, still not perfect. You know, I am not perfect. You let me run up and down a couple stairs back and forth, I'd probably break my neck. So what made them think a 6-year-old could do that? I hope that somebody is giving both of them hell. And I hope that they get everything that they deserve. Because when you hear me raise my voice up here, it's because I hate when people mess over children. Children are innocent. They look to us to protect them. And if they did not, for the 3rd time, want to take care of her, her mother was more than happy. She was fighting for her anyway. She was trying to get her from her dad anyway so she could have full custody. And instead of him just letting her go with her mother and giving up his rights or whatever he needed to do, he's going to punch her in the stomach and use his dumb, whatever she is. She's nothing. She's nothing. To help him kill an angel. So Mika is a fallen angel because she graced this earth with her presence. And she can no longer walk this earth because some dummy decided that she didn't need a chance to live. But you think the judge is supposed to be able to give you a chance to reduce your sentence. I mean, what kind of world do we live in with these people? I'm just on the case. And you know I'm always on the case.